or what do you think about how other players on your team can affect your confidence as an individual? So a lot of guys, for example, it's like, if I play with this guy, then this, and this will happen. Whereas if I play with this guy, then that will happen. And so what do you think of like how other guys on your team or other guys you're playing against affect your confidence as an individual player?
On your team, I think you look around your team, and that there's a hierarchy. You know that you just look at a roster and go, okay, this guy's the best, second best, third best, fourth best, top line, like that's obvious, right? So you look at, and if you're playing with what appears to be mostly third line guys, then you probably think that you're getting screwed. No, you do. You think that now I gotta like something, especially if you're an older guy. And if you're playing with the top guys, then you probably think that you're great or you're getting an opportunity to shine here, right? That's obvious. So can it affect you? Yeah, but basically you just got to play your game. Seen that several times where a kid, well, you see that several times where someone gets knocked off who they want to play with, because like if you play with, let's just say if you're playing with a real creative, good player that gets points and you're on his line, you're probably going to increase your point totals. So that you're excited about that. But what if, and I've seen guys be in that situation and they're there and they're there and they're there, and you're not increasing your point totals. So then they get moved down, obviously, because someone else could probably do that job more effectively. And then they pout and they cry, and it's like, yeah, but you got to take responsibility. Sometimes you are what you are. And also you have to understand your game. Like I've seen so many guys that maybe have a good year of goal scoring, or you see a guy that had some points and all of a sudden they think they're goal scorers, or they think their point guys are number one line guys. And then it stagnates. It's like, oh, maybe you're just a really good checker that had a good year. Maybe you're a good all around player that is just an all around player. You're not the goal scorer you think you are, or the point guy that you think you are. You see that a lot.
Well, we were just talking about a guy last week where it's like had all these goals, and it's like, well, yeah, you're playing with this guy. And now as soon as that guy's not here, it's like maybe you're not what you thought.
Yeah, or it's a different way of playing, right? Like, and so anyways, yeah, like, but playing with guys on your team. So can guys on your team take away confidence and give confidence? Yeah, for sure. But like, you're not supposed to let people take your confidence. Like it's really your decision if you let that happen. But having said that, especially when you're younger, if you have someone that's like going back to junior again, if one of your best players on the team who's older than you is telling you, little things like, hey, easy, settle down. Okay. You're cocky. You're not whatever. They can say things that'll make you feel like you're not as good. And like, it affects you because you're a kid. You're not necessarily mature enough to say, screw you, like, shut up, because you want to fit in as well. So that stuff is the thing I think makes the biggest difference of, sometimes your performance is just like the little things that you wouldn't think would matter that much, because it's easy for a parent to say, well, just don't listen to that shit. Well, that's fine to say, but you got to go in that dressing room with this person who is maybe a dick, or maybe not, whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember my second year when I was playing university. My third year, I was like kind of starting to mail it in because I knew I probably wasn't going to play again next year, and I was hurt and like all this kind of shit. But my second year was the only year I ever played where I genuinely, and I can honestly say that I wasn't preoccupied with trying to get points. And I think that is such a cancer to have in your brain, man. Like, and it's so hard to not have that. Like how much, if you can accept that it isn't always about points all the time. So if you, for example, let's say you're one of the best guys on your team, and your coach, because this happens, like I've done this coaching where I put one of my best players with two weaker players, or my best D with my worst D, because you're trying to balance out the lineup. And that best player is like, man, like, okay, now I'm not going to get as many goals. I'm not going to get as many points. We're not going to get as many chances. It's not going to be as fun to play, whatever. As opposed to understanding, which I've had to explain this to guys, like you're there so that for the team, this line is stronger. Your job is to make this line stronger. I don't care about your points 5-on-5. And you shouldn't either. But it's so hard to get that out of your mindset. So I remember this vividly, like all through junior, my first year playing at the university, even though I got scratched all the time, I was still like, I want to get in to get some points. Like, that's what I want to do. And it wasn't until that second year where I finally had the click of maturity. I'm 21 now, right? I finally had it at 21 because no one really ever explained it to me in a way that made it click that I actually do not care at all if I get 1 point at all. That was the only time that's ever happened. And it was so much easier to play. It was just so much easier to play. It's like, okay, if I'm put in an offensive situation where my job is to get a point, now I care about points. If I'm put in a defensive situation or a PK or a third, fourth line situation, it's like I can't be focused on that. Like, that can't be what I'm focused on because you're at such a disadvantage, right? If you play third or fourth line minutes as opposed to first or second line minutes, you're at such a disadvantage in terms of offensive opportunities because like you're not getting as many minutes and you're not going to be put in the offensive situations like offensive zone faceoffs, power play situations likely. Like you're probably not going to get that opportunity. And having the maturity to like have that click because that is what I think to your point, especially when you're talking about who you're playing with on your team, that will destroy you if all you're thinking about is, well, I'm not playing with this guy. And like, and kids say it all the time, like, I should be here. I'm a point guy, right? I'm a point guy. And if you can get that out of your mindset when you're not supposed to have it, it would be really beneficial. But I don't know what that takes to get kids to realize that because I've met very few, maybe a handful, where in junior they get it. Like they start to be okay with the fact that I'm not getting points, you know? Because I don't know if you would find this in the OHL from even when you were coaching lines one to, or maybe if you see this, I don't know how many third, fourth line guys where it's like they're not an offensive guy, but they're focused on like, how am I going to get more points?
Listen, I don't care who you are, you want to get points. Yeah. Like it doesn't matter. Like no one wants to see the end of the year after 68 games or 60 games, 1 goal and 4 assists. People say no, you don't worry about points, you don't worry about numbers, but you do, because at the end of the year, if you had 19 goals and 12 assists, is a lot
That's
more impressive, right? It looks like you did something, but
yeah.
It's almost impossible to have kids not worry about points. I mean, there's a defenseman on Charlie's team who's just a tough, strong, defensive minded. That's what he does, right? He may never score a goal in the OHL, and he probably knows that, and he doesn't expect to. But if he scores, he's going to be pumped, and you don't want another one. Everyone wants points, but the thing is that what the points do come when you like, it's the process, not the outcome. Really, really and truly, right? So if you do things the right way, like there's guys that get points that can't play. Right, they're not quality players, even though they get points because they don't do a full game of hockey. Right, they're only looking at one side. They get weeded out, or they end up being on a power play in the NHL because that's what they do. But it's the process is number one. That's number one. If you get a goal because let's say you got it out of your own end as a winger, you chipped it off the wall, and then you drove the net and got, right, you drove the net really hard and you got a rebound or you got a pass in the honey hole because you were working hard for it, then it's a goal that's very, very well deserved, right? Because you did something really well in your own zone, right? Or if you're coming on a back check and you knock a puck loose, and then you belly up the right way and a puck comes back to you and you get it, chip it in, and you start an offensive play from that. It's like, okay, that you're contributing in a lot of different ways. You might not be the one that touches the puck to have it go in the net, but you're doing the thing to create offense or to be good defensively, and it's the process. Did you score because you got lucky because you just you're shooting from the outside and you have a good shot for now, and then you get to play older guys, and then all of a sudden the goalies and the defending's better and that's gone? Or did you get your goals because you're always getting your nose in the dirty area? Right, you might have less beauty goals, but you got goals that are actually going to translate into hockey, and that's the difference. It's the process. It's how you get them. It's how you play the whole game, and but the bottom line is, okay, so here's a funny thing, right? Like the average person or the media or whatever, they don't look necessarily at that as much. Like if you look at the 3-star selections in games, it's like someone could have fight, 3 hits, 1 assist, and 1 goal, and then someone else will have 3 goals and did nothing, and they get first star. It's like because that's what they feel hockey players are, is about points. But your coach standing on the bench is the one that will look down the bench and go, okay, like this is who I have to play and why. And the average person doesn't understand it. And I'm not being a jerk on the average person. It's just like you really don't understand the intricacies of the game. And like sometimes you can think an offensive player is really good, but is like how many plays do they make that are just high risk that end up in the back of your net, right?
Man,
So
that's an interesting spot to be in now too. Is like behind the bench. As soon as you said that, I was thinking about how many times I do that. Like I'm looking up and down the bench, and how valuable it is to have played, being in that situation, to know what you're doing to the individuals when you pick one and not the other. And like, there's some guys where I'm just like, I cannot put you on the ice right now for whatever reason. But like, I know how that's gonna make you feel, so I'm gonna try to find a way to even it out or get you back out to feel good about yourself at some point later on. And that's why there's always that element we talk about with coaching, not really related to what we're talking about today, but like if you have played, it's so valuable. If you've played at some kind of high level where those things start to be variables, where you know what you're doing to the individual, where like you pass over them for the fourth time in a row, and like how that feels being the player. It's like it's so valuable.